Okay, we're gonna take apart and clean a hydraulic pump. I've taken it out of, this one is out of the filter press. Usually there's two bolts here that take it out. To take apart this part of it, I'm gonna take the 5/32 wrench and take off the manifold that takes off the shuttle valve. All right, here's the manifold come on. There's 4 O-rings. Try not to lose those because unless you have a rebuild kit, you won't have those. They're not a common size. They don't really wear out because they just press on the block. So as long as you don't lose them, they should be fine to reuse. Then the 2.5 millimeter wrench can take apart the shuttle valve off the side. Okay, I've taken the 2 long bolts out. This gasket can be always reused. You can just wash it off with soap and water. Try not to squeeze it to death with the 2 screws when they push in there. Otherwise it can, like a piece of cheese, it can squish out and not align with the holes properly. Otherwise it should align with the holes, and the screws go in these tiny 2 little spots. So now I've got the spool or shuttle valve off. We're going to start with cleaning that. That's one of the hardest things people don't really realize how to clean properly. The pump side is the side with the 2 that was facing the pump. Has 2 little cutout boxes on it. I usually mark the spool by just a few scratches. So to know which side is which, I might do 3 lines on one side and maybe just 2 on the other. And then the pump side, I'm just going to put an X. So I know this is the pump side of the shuttle valve. Then I'll take the end caps off with a screwdriver.
Okay.
All right. The spool valve has a couple of components that are critical. If you notice, there's 2 different sides I marked. One has an O-ring. It's actually a -007. You can get a Viton if it ever got too chewed up and can't be reused. It's just acting as a bumper against this side, which has an actual embedded magnet. The bumper goes against the magnet to keep it from destroying the spool, I guess. The other side goes against a plastic side. That side has no O-ring on it. So if I take the spool valve out, you can see it's like so. The metal side is going against this plastic end of the bumper, and the O-ring side right there is going against the magnet side. This valve gets stuck and the pump doesn't start cycling when the pressure loses pressure. So you don't hear the click, click, click sound when it's got air pressure to it and you're trying to close the press. When you don't hear that, this valve is typically just stalled and not moving back and forth. It needs to be cleaned out and re-lubricated for the most part so that it's able to go back and forth in here. Once you take the spool valve out and the 2 sides off, this component here can be cleaned off with some QD, like electric cleaner, to clean out all the debris and old grease. That'll get the box. This box doesn't have any elastomers or plastics in it, so the cleaner won't harm anything. I usually use a blowgun to clean it out. And that would take care of the center body of it. The big thing though is people always confuse, and they say they take this apart and they re-grease this with the lubricant, the grease that I recommend, the Magnalube grease, which is fine and everything, but you can't just lubricate this, put it back together, and expect things to go rosy. If you don't actually take apart the end caps. So re-lubricating that is fine, and that's what needs to be done, is re-lubricate the spool. However, these 2 end caps are actually check valves, and they escape or exhaust the air out the corner, the bottom hole there. If you don't disassemble these and clean the junk out of them, they're actually clogged and they don't allow air out, so this air doesn't go in and feed, and it stops the whole process. It's basically plugged up on the tailpipe. So using the air nozzle, you can put a little air pressure to that little hole and it'll pop the magnet out. So I just use my fingers to capture it from flying away like that, and I actually got the the end out of it. You can do the same thing for the other side, the plastic side. Push a little air in the outlet hole, and it will come out. These have cup washers or cup seals on them, and they allow the air to escape but not come in. If these little pieces are plugged up, it doesn't allow the air outflow, therefore the air doesn't go in and is greased or cleaned as you want the spool to be, it still isn't going to work. So I'm going to just clean up these two little parts here and reassemble it. So this was the magnet side. I got it all cleaned up. You can put a little bit of grease to relubricate it to get this back in. Obviously, pay attention to the check valve. The outside flare goes in first. And if you have to, it should tuck right back in to the ends. And same thing on the other side, the plastic side, that star-shaped figure comes toward to the front, and the cross type is toward the inside, and that goes back in like so. Then these things can be reassembled with their little screws, and don't forget the little lock washers. So then I'll just reattach these things. And once it's been relubricated, that's how a shuttle is cleaned out properly. I put the spool back together. The pump side goes toward the O-ring side with my little scratches. I put the screws through the holes where the screws go so that I can align it properly, and then I can screw this gently back together and just don't over tighten it. Finger tight on the wrench is plenty. If it leaks anything, it's only going to be air out of this gasket, not oil anyway. But over tightening it just squeezes the gasket out of in between the two blocks. Okay. We'll start by taking apart the rest of the pump now that I've got the manifold back together with the cleaned out spool valve. The 4 bolts come off the top, and we will take apart the pump head from the air piston of the pump. When I get the 4 screws out, if you have to put the pump in a vise, you can gently for a little bit, squeezing this part and turning the body to get it to rotate. They're really tight at first if they haven't been apart in a long time or haven't been lubricated in a long time. But you can put this in a thing and then spin this body part. This one, it's nice and loose. That's how it comes apart. To get the piston out of there, again, you have to use air to push it out. And just be careful it doesn't fly away. That's how you can loosen it and get, this is just an air piston, and this is the part that goes in through past the oil seal which is inside the pump. It's like so, and the stroke is from here to here, and it's pulling this much volume of oil like a syringe each time it pumps. You can clean out the inside of this, relubricate the walls with the grease to reassemble this. These seals come in the rebuild kit, but really, they're as long as they're re-greased, they really don't need to be replaced. So you don't need to technically replace those. But that's how the main air piston comes in, and then you can just put it back together with some grease and reassemble the pump. The remainder part of the pump we're going to take apart to see the seal in here. These check valves have the O-rings that I talked about earlier in a previous video. They go here and seal the surface. A lot of times they wear out on the inside, so replacing them if you have a leak against the pump against the wall. If the main seal is leaking, actually oil will come out this little groove here and leak also in the same area back in the back wall of the filter press. To clean out the 2 check valves, there's a suction and pressure check valve. The S is the suction and P is the pressure. You can put air in where the oil pump goes in and out. So that's blowing air out of the pressure valve right there. And I can feel it with my thumb. So that'll clear out a lot of oil and any debris that comes in there. The suction side, you actually have to push it through, this way, and you can feel the air coming out. So that's how to clear out any debris inside the suction check valve. If you don't have a rebuild kit that comes with the new cartridge valves, you don't have to remove them or do anything, because otherwise, if you're not replacing them, taking them out is quite difficult. You have to put a hook in here, pull them out, or needle nose pliers on the edge of this and actually twist and take the pressure check valve out. Those are cartridge check valves. They're actually identical. They're just reversed in direction. This one looks like that on the back side of it. So they're two check valves. They have their own little O-rings on the sides, and they're just dropped in these holes in a tight fit, so they can be withdrawn. The next thing I'm going to do is take these 4 bolts out. I won't do that on camera, so I don't bore you, but I'll take these out and we'll look at the seal in the inside. Finally, when you take apart those 4 screws, there is the pump seal in here. This is the pump seal. This one's orange, the original one's orange. If you remove the pump seal, I'm just going to use the pump head itself to kind of tweak it to the side to take it out. And you putting a new seal in. You can't just grab this and then force it in. You have to tuck the edges in, or you'll basically damage the very delicate, sharp edges on these seals. So you can start by getting it on one side, and you'll need to use either a pick or a flat-braided screwdriver and tuck the seal in as you press it into place. This will keep the seal edge intact. You got to tuck this in carefully and gently get it in. Not just take your thumb and force it in. If you do that, you'll wreck the edge of the seal, and thus the pump will guarantee to leak. All right. I usually run this along the edge and carefully tuck this in. I've had more than one pump seal damaged by just installing it this way, wrong. Yeah, there it is. That's how a seal is put back into place. Relubricate the walls and the edges with grease before you reassemble this. There's another O-ring that should be just fine. It's an air O-ring on the inside that the piston passes through first. It's not, you can barely see it there, but it's there. So this thing would go back in place, and it only has one direction, so you can't really make a mistake. You can rotate these things to find their orientations so they go back on properly. And that pretty much takes care of that. Good luck.